ABC7 presents the Los Angeles Mayoral Candidates Debate. Now, from Eyewitness News, here is moderator Mark Brown.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'd like to welcome you all to the Los Angeles Mayoral Debate at the Aratani Japan America Theater in downtown Los Angeles. The race for the next mayor of the city of Los Angeles is in full swing now. There are actually 14 candidates who are all trying to be mayor. 4 are taking part in tonight's debate. We invited all of the candidates to be here, although they had to meet certain criteria in order to be on the stage tonight. These are the 4 who met those criteria. If you're interested in hearing or seeing the list of the criteria for inclusion, those are contained at lalcv.org. The 4 people joining us, as I mentioned, met all the conditions. I'd like to introduce them now. Please hold your applause until I've given all their names. Let's see. Councilman Eric Garcetti, City Controller Wendy Gruhl, former Assistant U.S. Attorney Kevin James, and Councilwoman Jan Perry. You may applaud. Tonight's event is co-hosted by the Los Angeles League of Conservation Voters in partnership with the League of Women Voters. The candidates will be answering a series of questions for the next hour. The first batch comes from our panelists. I'd like to introduce them. Susanna Reyes of the Los Angeles League of Conservation Voters, Rick Sabor, chairman of the California League of Conservation Voters, and Sandra Sanchez of the Los Angeles League of Conservation Voters. Now, in the second part of the debate, the candidates will actually be questioning each other. They get to mix it up a little bit. They will each get 1 minute to respond to every question tonight. We have timekeepers down front. Let's meet them. They are from the League of Women Voters. They are there to make sure to keep us on track. You can wave if you'd like, just so everybody knows who you are. See that? 1 minute. They mean that. They will keep us on track. Now, if time permits, we're going to ask some rapid-fire yes or no questions, short answer questions at the end, and then, of course, each candidate at the very end will get 1 minute for a closing statement. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the tragedy that occurred on Friday in Connecticut, the shooting at the elementary school that claimed so many lives. If you will, please join me right now for a moment of silence in their honor. Thank you. Tonight's first question then deals with that issue. In light of Friday's shooting in Connecticut, what do you see as the mayor's role in ensuring the safety of children at schools in Los Angeles? I address that question first to Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mark. As Americans, as a father, all of our hearts ache today for Newtown. I was at a toy giveaway this morning in Boyle Heights, and all I could think about as we gave toys away were the wrapped presents under a Christmas tree in Connecticut that would never go to their intended recipients. But as my prayers are with those families and with Newtown, I also reject the idea that at times like this we should not talk about ways to reduce gun violence. In fact, it's precisely at moments like this that we must talk and we must act. I have led on the issue of reducing gun violence for years, helping to pass and to write laws to get illegal guns off the streets of LA, to ban the open carry of firearms, and to get rid of large caliber weapons and ammunition. But it's time to take this national. And I will be a national leader. And I ask you to go to my website tonight and to join me in supporting Senator Feinstein's ban on assault weapons. Go to ericgarcetti.com and help us make sure that the lives that we lost yesterday will never be extinguished again.
Ms. Gruhl.
Our hearts are broken. The first thing I wanted to do was hug my son, a 4th grader in public school, and I held him tight. And to think that just 13 years ago, at the Jewish Community Center here in Los Angeles, in a neighborhood where I grew up, we had a shooting as well. And to think about those that have been impacted by this. You know, it's not as easy to get mental health service as it is guns. We need to change that. When I think about the future of our city, and the importance of national legislation, and yes, supporting Senator Feinstein's 2004 ban on assault weapons that needs to be renewed, that all of us need to recommit ourselves to do that. I've been proud to support Women Against Gun Violence, and as someone in my family who was murdered and a gun was used to get into their home, I know how serious this issue is, and that we have to, as Angelenos, get ourselves together and make sure that we address the issue of gun violence.
Mr. James.
First of all, our hearts and prayers go out to the families and the community of Newtown, Connecticut. To protect our kids, clearly, we must end easy access to guns and make our schools safe. I support the immediate passage of a comprehensive assault weapons ban that includes restrictions on high-capacity magazines. We must also fix the mental health records gap involved in purchasing weapons. We must do everything we can right here in Los Angeles to protect our children. This is something that my opponents have refused to do while running City Hall. Even after Columbine, these LA officials avoided their responsibility, refusing to make our schools safe so that parents don't have to worry themselves sick about their kids while they are in school. As mayor, I will appoint a police chief that must support and implement the use of psychological testing for carry concealed weapons permit applications. We have shootings due to gang violence, a bullying epidemic, and molestation has shockingly been tolerated and even covered up, as the Miramonte scandal showed. My opponents have failed on these issues. I am the only candidate who can and will lead on this in day one.
Ms. Perry.
My heart goes out to the families who have lost their little children. Every parent should be able to send their child to school each and every day, and at the very least expect them to come home alive. And as mayor, I would join with other mayors across this country to renew our call for ban on assault weapons. That is a simple step to take and should be done without question. I've represented South Los Angeles for the last 11 years, and I know far too well the devastating effects of gun violence, not only on a family, but on an entire community. Just last week, we had a young lady who was 14 years old, shot in the face. And so I've got firsthand, hands-on experience as to what this means. What we need to do about it is to band together, to renew our focus, and to help people across the city understand that it affects them too, not just people in disadvantaged communities, but people across this country. If there's a lesson we can learn from what happened in Connecticut, it is that one person gets hurt, we all get hurt.
All right, let's go to our panelists. Susana Reyes has the first question.
Please give us an example of your leadership on an environmental issue.
Okay, we'll begin. All right. They're done. They're gone. Could you ask the question again, please?
Yes. Please give us an example of your leadership on an environmental issue.
All right. Mr. Garcetti first.
I've been very proud to be an environmental champion, to have authored the nation's largest green building ordinance, to have co-authored the largest local clean water bond in our nation's history, and to have helped push Los Angeles to be the largest city to now have a solar rooftop program. These were good not just for the environment, but they produce jobs. 3,000 jobs for Proposition O, which helps clean up our water in our rivers, our lakes, and out in the ocean. And I led the fight in 2002 to get beyond coal, to make sure that we took money that was in an Arizona coal plant and to take it and to reinvest it instead into what was the largest municipally owned wind farm just up here in California. See, we don't have to choose between jobs and the environment. And I've been a champion showing we can have both. We can boost our recycling up to 70%, and I've helped to lead that. To reduce our particulates in the port by 68% so we can breathe easier. And to make sure that we start looking at transportation policies that help us get out of our cars and out of traffic to live healthier lives.
Ms. Gruhl.
One of my proudest moments was the fact that I've been able to secure over 1,200 acres of land to be kept in perpetuity for park space. I also led the effort in ensuring that we looked at our renewable portfolios and made sure that we talked about how are we going to get to that 20% by 2010 and get to our next level in the state of California and 33% by 2020. And I held the feet to the fire of the Department of Water and Power and the others to ensure that we are looking at exactly how we're getting to renewable energy. But I also led the effort in making sure that we had a transportation policy that looked at creating a seamless public transportation system, because for all of us, when people are sitting in their cars, that's not good for our environment, and to ensure that we have that transportation system for all of us to take. As a city council member, I fought for solar power and to make sure that we had solar power on our rooftops. I fought to make sure that we had energy efficiency in the city of Los Angeles, and continued to lead the effort to see that Los Angeles will be a clean and green and viable city with green jobs in the future, because that is, to me, the future of Los Angeles.
Mr. James.
As a broadcaster in Los Angeles, covering our city for almost a decade on KEBC as one of the stations, as a matter of fact, I fought to maintain the integrity of our ability as a city to move forward with the solar plan. What I did was I became the media outlet on the Measure B issue to fight for honesty, to expose the fact that the information that we were getting from City Hall was not accurate. The Los Angeles Times wrote that story, and we defeated Measure B. And had we, the stories that have come out in just the last few days this month, had we not defeated it, we would have been set back potentially years because of the mistakes that were made. As the LA Times has set forth in the last few days, if we are not careful with the way that we move forward, we will incur costs that could price ourselves literally out of the process. We will be forced to rely on fossil fuels, and it's part of the cost that we wouldn't otherwise even understand.
Ms. Perry.
My proudest moment in my environmental accomplishments has been the establishment and the construction of 2 wetlands in South Los Angeles. The first at Slauson and Compton, which is a 2 to 3 acre wetlands. The second one at 54th and Avalon, which is a 10-acre wetlands, both of which were converted from other uses that were concrete and just blighted and dragged the community down. I wanted to create a new vision for South Los Angeles, an area that had not experienced a lot of environmental activism, to convert an old MTA bus yard, maintenance yard, into a green urban wetlands project, to recharge the water table, to create an environmental educational center. These were my goals, and this is what I accomplished. I also restored $70 million of parks and soccer fields that were built from recyclable materials so that the community could have facilities and assets that they had not previously enjoyed.
Rick Zaber, your question for Wendy Gruhl.
What is your vision for the city of Los Angeles as it relates to the environment?
I believe in this city that we have an opportunity to look at ways in which we can improve our environment. Everything from ensuring that we have more park space, to a transportation system, to making sure that we have a Department of Water and Power that looks at renewable energy, and to make sure that we look at efficiencies, 15%. When you look at the fact that we also need to ensure that we get off of coal, and how important that is for not only Los Angeles, but for the rest of the country. My vision is that we have an environmental affairs focus and attention. Disappointed that we got rid of the Environmental Affairs Department, and it's been dispersed to various agencies. We need a focus and attention, and as mayor, I will be in charge of ensuring that we have a department that is strictly looking at environmental issues, because we need to hold people accountable to ensure that not only do we have solar and wind, all of the renewable energy, but we also ensure that we have the parks and a good transportation system. As mayor of Los Angeles, I'm going to continue that effort to ensure that we hold everyone accountable for a renewable and sustainable city, and look at some of the things that have been recommended, particularly with the UCLA study that just came out about a sustainable and livable city.
Mr. James.
Los Angeles can be the cleanest, greenest city in America, but we have to get there the right way. There are a number of new technologies that are available. Green Rail Intelligent Design is a super dock system that can clean the air around the county's largest polluter, which is the ports. It moves our containers through a tunnel that is electrically powered to get it to the Inland Empire. And it does so by taking millions of truck trips off the road without that kind of emissions, with the problems that we have there. We have an advanced maritime emission control system, AMEX and ALEX. This is another very exciting type of technology. It's basically a bonnet. It goes on top of the emission system of ships coming into the port. Also, fuel cell technology, about the size of a refrigerator, costs around $15,000. And through natural gas usage, you can power homes and businesses. Geothermal heating and cooling, about 10 feet below, 55 degrees. You can constantly keep your house cool that way.
Ms. Perry.
I think it would be important to be far more inclusive than we have in the past and grow the Green Streets Working Group so that we can use innovative techniques from other cities and develop our own smart systems that can be employed to increase and decrease the delivery of energy in real time so that we can give real information to our ratepayers and reward them for being energy efficient and conserving water rather than continuing to be punitive. To again, build more wetlands across the city, to capture runoff, to recycle stormwater, and to recharge our water table. I'd also like to acknowledge the low impact ordinance and low impact development ordinance, and the mother of the LID, Paula Daniels, who's here tonight, who originally came forward with that idea. It's important to be able to listen to people like Paula Daniels, like Barbara Blinderman, who retooled the Department of Water and Power bill to teach us how to do our jobs better to communicate with you.
Mr. Garcetti.
As your next mayor, I'm going to create jobs and put people back to work. I have a plan to clean our air and our water and to create 20,000 local jobs, good jobs, green jobs, right here in Los Angeles. Jobs in solar installation, jobs in energy efficiency, and jobs in green manufacturing. And I will make DWP not only a coal-free utility, but a nuclear-free utility as well. You see, we have to aim high and deliver big. That's what I've done and what I will do as your next mayor. Whether it was authoring the largest green building ordinance in the city, the largest local clean water bond, or whether it's getting away from landfills and recycling more. These are the things that we can do, not only to lead in this city, but to lead in this country. I want Los Angeles to be the zero-emission car capital of the world, and I've driven an electric car for 13 out of the last 14 years. We don't have to choose between the environment and jobs. So my vision, Rick, is to make sure not only that we have a great environment, but that we have a healthy economy once again.
Sandra, your question for Mr. James.
We continue to spend a lot of money to improve public transportation, and traffic just keeps getting worse. What are your plans to reduce traffic congestion?
We have to better plan our public transportation projects, first of all. It is a planning issue. We have a green line that goes to the airport. It stops 1.5 miles from the airport. Yes, my luggage has wheels on it, but I don't want to drag it all the way to the airport. So planning is something that has to happen first. You know, I heard on KABC, as a matter of fact, that 30% of our traffic congestion in Los Angeles is people driving around looking for a parking place. My opponents have raided the Special Parking Revenue Fund. That is a revenue fund that had hundreds of millions of dollars in it. And it was to enable us to build parking garages, for example, like they did in Beverly Hills, partially subterranean. And you relieve the parking stress on the street. You relieve traffic on the street as well. Also, right-hand turn signals. Right-hand turn signals, if you hold the pedestrians up 20 seconds, it slows the pedestrian down, it's safer for them, and the cars turning right can clear that right-hand lane, and traffic in those lanes moves 33% faster.
Ms. Perry?
My vision for the future of transportation in Los Angeles is premised on talking to my 21-year-old daughter who doesn't like to drive. Her friends don't like to drive. They don't want to buy a car. They don't want to pay for the insurance. And so I move forward and fight for light rail. I was the former chairwoman of the Exposition Light Rail, the first 8.6 miles, and I'm excited about that because We finally have the framework in this city that is emerging to connect this city together from the San Gabriel Valley to the Long Beach, and we will eventually be able to connect the east side of Los Angeles to the west side of Los Angeles, so that if we continue to build housing near where people work, which is the best way to affect traffic congestion, perhaps one day we will build a city where people do not need a car, and that's the kind of city that I want to build.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Sandra. This issue is not about cars and buses. It's about people. It's about what happens when you miss your child's recital or a job interview when you're stuck in traffic, when you're choking on asthma because cars are stalled. It's about losing millions of hours and billions of dollars in our lives every single year because of traffic. There's no silver bullet to reducing traffic, but let's start with common sense solutions. Instead of widening our freeways, let's pave our streets. Let's build new busways and light rail where they work and subways where they're needed. Let's get the Wilshire subway to the west side, a Sylmar to Sherman Oaks line in the valley, a transit tunnel through the Sepulveda Pass, and rail in South LA that, yes, finally gets us to the airport. Let's make it easier and safer to bike and to walk and to connect to transit from our neighborhoods. And it's true, 30% of the traffic is people circling the block, which is why in my district there's a smartphone app that tells you real-time on Hollywood Boulevard where the parking is so you can get to that meal with friends instead of circling the block. There's actually 4 spaces on Hollywood between Hudson and Whitley if anybody needs to go right now. You see, when traffic gets moving, our economy gets moving, and I will get this city moving again as the next mayor.
Ms. Gruhl.
When we look at the future of Los Angeles, it is about the economy, and it's about jobs. We have a unique opportunity to have a trans economy in the city of Los Angeles. With Measure R passing, we have dollars that are going to help come to reality. The subway to the sea and the Crenshaw line, and yes, getting to the LA airport, but also going under the 405 and ensuring that we have the kind of bus lanes as well as bike lanes across the city of Los Angeles. But it means we have to look at not only that transportation system, but common sense solutions. Some of the things I did as a council member and continue to push forward, which is synchronization of our lights, left-hand turn signals, and yes, paving Wilshire Boulevard, that people have said, if you just pave Wilshire Boulevard, I will vote for you for anything in the city of LA, because that is about transportation as well. The important part is looking at common sense solutions, smart investment, good paying jobs that are going to help ensure we have that transportation system, and businesses will know that when they come to LA, that they're not going to be stuck in traffic. And that's something I will do as mayor of Los Angeles, is ensure that we address that issue of traffic.
Rick, your question for Jan Perry.
The city of Los Angeles emits more greenhouse gases than many small countries. A recent study conducted by UCLA called Vision 2021 LA calls for significant reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. As mayor, what specific actions would you take to significantly reduce the city's contribution to climate change?
Well, there is a lot of hot air here, and that's true. Because we're a large city. But seriously, the most important thing is to focus on our major emitters of greenhouse gases and to be very aggressive and direct in initiating, building on what we've already started and going even farther. I've been a member of the South Coast Air Quality Management District Board of Directors or Governors for the last 12 years and have been very proactive in fighting things like the Vernon Power Plant, making sure that the city was on point at the port with clean fuel trucks and clean air programs to reduce our fossil fuel vehicles within our own fleet, to move forward in that manner and to be able to encourage the rest of the city to undertake the same, not only in the public sector, but in the private sector. I've represented an area that's been Sorry, I'm looking the wrong way. I've represented an area that has been extremely negatively affected by greenhouse gas emissions for the last 11 years and have been proactive in dealing with respiratory illnesses by creating more development that takes us in a more positive direction.
Greenhouse gases, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you. I'm proud to have led on this issue in 2005, making sure that this city, even when the nation wouldn't, would abide by the Kyoto protocols, and making sure that we reduce all of the forms of emissions that we have that are destroying our planet, but also choking our lives. In 2002, when we took money out of a coal plant, that had never been done before. And we put that into green and renewable energy right here that produced jobs in our backyard. And as mayor, I will continue this path forward with the plan that I'm releasing tonight to create these 20,000 green jobs right here in our backyard. I agree with the Sierra Club, and I agree with UCLA and the great study that was put out, that we can put forward an aggressive but doable mix to get us off of coal and out of nuclear power. With 40% of our power coming from renewable energy, including a massive expansion of our rooftop solar program, 40% from natural gas, and 20% from energy efficiency, hydro, and other sources, we can get this done. And I have a proven track record of delivering. As I mentioned, I want Los Angeles to be a zero-emission vehicle capital. I want to make sure that we have more on-dock rail so the cargo coming in ships can get on trains more quickly. And we have to have more plug-in power for those ships that come into our port. And together, we'll not only get off of coal, but we'll be able to breathe easy once again.
Wendy Gruhl.
There's no question that climate change is here, and we're seeing the impacts of it. Whether it's the long summers or the more extreme weathers that we've seen, when you just look at Hurricane Sandy, it is costing $70 billion for that cost, for that hurricane that impacted our communities and our country. We have to do more to ensure that we're investing in that renewable energy, and it's why in that audit I looked at specifically that we were not focusing in on renewable energy. They stopped contracts for renewables. We had a big debate about how we were going to ensure that we got off of coal, and what we need to do is a lot less talk and more action. And the proposal that's come from UCLA, which is exciting, Vision 2021, has set out standards and accountability and ways in which we can judge one another. As a city council member and as controller, I focused on accountability, but I also focused in on the low-impact development. I'm glad we talked about Paula Daniels. I introduced the motion to say we needed that in the city of Los Angeles. But when we go forward, we need to continue our efforts to get off of coal, to look at efficiencies, because that's 15% of what we can do in the city of Los Angeles. And as mayor, I will guide that effort and hold those departments accountable.
Mr. James.
We've had 4 questions tonight from the panelists. 2 of them were asked the last time you hosted this debate 8 years ago. The reason that the UCLA study had to be published is because we haven't made the progress that we should have made with current leadership. I'll read for you for a sentence from the UCLA plan. Despite producing a variety of highly focused plans and programs, the city has never developed a comprehensive environmental sustainability plan. That's the way that this city government has approached running the city as a whole. And it has to change with real leadership, with new leadership. As I proposed earlier, a way to get off greenhouse gas emissions, the GRID program, Green Rail Intelligent Development, the Maritime Emission Control System, amazing technology, fuel cell technology, geothermal heating and cooling, additional parks and green space. Those are new things that we can do in the city to move it forward.
Ms. Perry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought I answered.
Oh, no. You know what?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
right.
You're
absolutely right.
You are the moderator. I did that.
You get to answer the question twice.
I can answer it twice if you'd like. Thank you.
Sandra, sorry about that. Sandra, your question for Eric Garcetti.
Okay, changing subjects slightly. The city continues to face a budget deficit. If the measure to increase the Los Angeles sales tax by 0.5% appears on the ballot in 2013, will you support or oppose it? If you support it, please tell us why. If you oppose it, what alternative measures would you support to help balance the budget?
Thank you for that question. I think that it is so important for us to focus not just on cuts and taxes, taxing you more, cutting more of your critical services, and that we put a laser-like focus on growing our economy. We can talk about cutting, and in times of crisis we have to do that. And I'm the one person on this stage who's actually negotiated pension reform, who's helped to work to make sure that we reduced the number of city employees we had and dealt with our health care costs to keep our city away from a fiscal cliff. But at the same time, we must get serious about jobs in LA. My plan to get rid of our city's gross receipts tax, our business tax, the Daily News said would be the single biggest step we could take to bring revenue and jobs back to Los Angeles. 130,000 new jobs, according to USC. 20,000 new jobs in the green sector that I've outlined here tonight. We've got to get serious, folks. We have 165,000 jobs that we've lost in the last 30 years while adding 800,000 people. But you know what? The Chamber of Commerce said that in my district, I was #1 of the 15 city council districts in job growth the last 2 years. As the city is down 10% in employment, we were up 5%. So if you want a jobs creator, I look forward to being your next mayor.
Ms. Gruhl.
There are 3 things we need to do to be able to address the issue of our budget crisis in Los Angeles. First and foremost is job creation. I have the unique experience of working at DreamWorks Movie Studios and the owner of a small family business, knowing what it means to keep those jobs here in Los Angeles. I know what it means as the architect of the business tax reform in 2006 to get more jobs, those small and medium-sized businesses, to stay here in the city of Los Angeles. So first and foremost, it is about jobs, and it is about green jobs. But it is about pension reform and continuing the effort and pushing forward on double dipping and pension spiking and ensuring that we look at those that may have committed a felony, why a city employee on a job-related item, that they wouldn't get their pension. But it's also about efficiencies. I've identified $160 million in efficiencies and things that we could do differently to get our city back on track, whether it be our fuel usage and the fact that we had people who were stealing fuel from the city of Los Angeles, or where it be looking at our cell phones and how we're using it in Los Angeles. I know that with good jobs, good pension reform, and 3, being able to look at efficiencies, we can get Los Angeles back on track.
Mr. James.
Yes, I'm third in line to answer for your question, Sandra. I'll be the first to answer it. I am against the sales tax increase. And as a matter of fact, I have also signed the opposition argument that will be on the ballot. This is another job killer in Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a PR problem in our city. We have run business out of here. And how can we pay for the city services that are so critical to you when we don't have a healthy private sector? Now, Mr. Garcetti just talked about a plan to eliminate the gross receipts tax. He said it's time to get serious. My opponents have been in office for a decade, and they're just now thinking that it's time to get serious. Well, look at the crises in Los Angeles. It was time to get serious a long time ago. The time to get serious is in this election, and to elect a new mayor. And I will eliminate the gross receipts tax. And if we're unable to do it through the city council, I will put it on the ballot, and we will do it with the people.
Ms. Perry. Please.
I oppose the new sales tax proposal. This will bring a smile to your face. I also signed the opposition argument, so I happen to be there with Mr. James, which makes me smile too. A smart person said to me, "Don't create new taxes, create new taxpayers." And what that means is that we have to be on firm financial footing to continue to reduce our expenditures, to ask our employees to come back to the table and talk to us, debate with us, vet with us our unsustainable pension system, our salary disparities, to have difficult conversations with our employees, but to be honest and realistic. I don't want to be a mayor who will tell a retiree, we cannot sustain your pension, you're going to get it cut. That's not what I want to be able to, what I need to do in the long run. What I need to do in the long run is to bring new revenue to the city of Los Angeles, which is what I've been bringing the last 11 years with 90,000 new jobs.
All right, now we're going to mix it up a little bit. The candidates get to ask each other questions. This is the second part of our debate. Now, the person that they've selected the person they're going to be questioning. That was done earlier. Kevin James, your question for Wendy Gruhl.
Thank you, Mark. In 2002, Controller Chick published a report stating that the fire department meets national response time goals only 40% of the time. Concerned residents had to expose this scandal to the media 10 years later before you ever responded, even though you were on the council and controller all of those years. Why should we trust you now to make public safety a priority if you become mayor?
Well, first and foremost, I do want to say I answered the question that was asked, which was specifically how are we going to bring our budget back to, I think, the importance. A lot of people can say no, and I am also opposed to the sales tax. But you have to be able to say yes to something about what you're going to do, and that's what I've done. And I said yes when I needed to make sure that our fire department had the resources necessary and to look at those response times, particularly when $80 million had been cut from their budget. And when I talked to firefighters across the city of Los Angeles, they said to me in fire stations, you know, Wendy, we every day risk our lives for our residents. And sometimes when we go out, we think if we just had a little bit more money, how would we have responded to that? Could we have gotten there quickly and potentially have saved a life? I'm very proud of my efforts as city controller to highlight where things are wrong and particularly to say how we improve them, whether it be looking at a GPS system in the city or making sure that we had tablets in the city when they were going out with paramedics to ensure they knew what their vital signs were and how they could provide that to the hospital when they went there. It is important as city controller and as council member to come forward with recommendations, and I'm very proud of my efforts to ensure that our fire department gets the resources, and two, that we look at data that really tells where we're going forward on fire response.
Jan Perry, your question for Mr. Garcetti.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Garcetti, last year, Senator Alex Padilla introduced legislation to modify the dismissal procedures of teachers involved in sexual misconduct, violence, or drug offenses against children after the horrible experience that took place at Miramonte Elementary School. I'm a firm supporter of this legislation and an added protection for our children. I would like to know where you stand.
I have the same exact stance, and I would have supported that had I been the state legislature. I think it's critically important for us to be able to get bad teachers and those who commit crimes out of our schools quickly. That's the most basic thing we can do protecting our children.
Thank you.
Wendy Gruhl, a question for Kevin James.
Kevin, one of the most important jobs as mayor of Los Angeles is to fight for our fair share of federal dollars, to build a world-class transportation system and improve our infrastructure and increase our security at our ports and airports. How can you possibly expect to be a credible or effective mayor asking President Obama for help when you spent years on a radio show, a radical right-wing radio show, talking and demonizing the president, calling him names, and even going on national television comparing him to Neville Chamberlain?
First of all, I disagree with the premise of the question over the content of my radio show. The comparison to Neville Chamberlain was not a comparison that I made. Wasn't a great day at the office for me on national television, but it wasn't a comparison that I made. The credibility to work with the federal government to do what we need to do in Los Angeles is coming in as the only candidate in this race who has not bankrupted the city of Los Angeles. I have relationships with people in the Justice Department, people that work directly, as all of you know, that work directly with the president, and the relationships through my years as the chairman of AIDS Project Los Angeles. I've demonstrated an ability to work with people on both sides of the aisle. I've developed relationships with Democrats, with Republicans, with Declined Estate at a time of crisis in my community, where we had to do much more with much less and face real change, which is what we're going to have to do in the city of Los Angeles. And thank you for the question.
Mr. Garcetti, your question for Ms. Perry.
Yes, I know in American politics the soup du jour is to attack, but I actually have a compliment for you and a question, Ms. Perry. We worked together on Proposition O. Mary Nichols was our co-chair of the largest local clean water bond in the nation's history, which has taken 70% of the trash out of the LA River, cleaning up our oceans. And you mentioned before the two wetlands that you brought to South Los Angeles, where nature and clean water had not existed in that form in a long time. If you are elected mayor, what are you going to do to bring projects like that throughout the city of Los Angeles?
Well, if I'm elected mayor, I would embark upon an ambitious program to identify areas that do not have enough green now, and to take blighted spaces and begin to convert them and build community consensus, and to be able to use this opportunity as a way to teach people that we can clean up their communities, and we can capture runoff, that we can have multiple uses for these spaces, for green spaces, for outdoor classrooms, for places to people to exercise, children and their families. It can have a multitude of uses. And the Clean Water Bond is one of the most effective ways to be able to get there.
Thank you.
All right. Now, got some rapid fire questions we want to get to. These are simple, short answer. We prefer a yes or a no. Some of them are not yes or no, but you can answer it with one word or one or two. I almost said one word or less. That's not going to work, will it? Let's begin with Sandra Sanchez, please.
Do you support the Department of Water and Power's commitment to divest itself from coal and replace it with renewable energy?
Mr. Garcetti.
Yes, and I have the plan.
Wendy.
Yes.
Absolutely, and we have to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
These are rapid fire. You guys are doing great. Susanna.
Would you support a moratorium on fracking until it is proven safe?
Wendy Gruhl.
Yes.
Yes, as a matter of fact, a new story came out that mentioned that fracking is related to earthquakes as well, potentially, so absolutely.
Yes, I would support a moratorium on fracking.
Mr. Garcetti.
Yes, especially here in Los Angeles and South LA, where that is contemplated and looked at right now in our city along a fault line.
Some of you are using more than one word.
It was a run-on word.
I know. Try to keep it short.
I'm 2 for 2. Okay.
Okay. All right. Rick, your question.
How do you commute around Los Angeles?
Kevin James.
I drive an automobile, mostly. Occasionally when I can, I take the red line downtown.
Let me follow up. Hybrid, SUV, what kind of automobile?
Oh, it is a Ford Fusion 2012.
Okay. Jan Perry.
Hybrid 2006 Honda. I beg rides from people, so I carpool, I guess you could call it that, and occasionally take light rail.
All right. Mr. Garcetti.
I carpool every single day. I sometimes take transit, and I bike and walk.
Ms. Gruhl.
A hybrid.
I have a hybrid Escape. I carpool every single day, and when I was chair of transportation, I tried at least once a month or more to take public transportation, including the subway, as well as ensuring as much as possible to walk in my community and our neighborhoods.
Okay. Sandra. Question for Kevin James, I believe. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I went first last.
Oh, you went first. I'm sorry. For Jan Perry. Sandra.
Do you plan to continue Mayor Villaraigosa's initiative to plant 1 million trees in Los Angeles?
Well, I think if an idea is good, then you should pursue it. Now,
yes or no?
yes.
Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Garcetti, yes or no on the initiative to plant 1 million trees?
I'll keep planting trees, yes.
Ms. Gruhl.
As someone who's on the board has been on the board of Tree People,
Ms.
absolutely.
Gruhl? Okay.
I didn't know that staff drivers count for carpooling, but even if they do, absolutely,
Mr. James.
absolutely on the trees. But we've got to get there in the smart way.
Susanna.
Would you support a policy to limit the cup size of sugary drinks to fight obesity, like what Mayor Bloomberg did in New York?
I believe this is for Mr. Garcetti. Yes or no, Mr.
No.
Garcetti? Ms. Gruhl.
No.
Mr. James.
As somebody who just got off of a Dr. Pepper habit, I should, but I will not.
Ms. Perry.
Yeah, I'd give it a try.
Paper or plastic? Ms. Gruhl.
Neither.
Mr. James.
Boxers.
I'm never having dinner at your house. Mr. James.
Preferably neither, but sometimes we have to use both.
Okay. Jan Perry.
I prefer paper.
Mr. Garcetti.
TMI and renewable and reusable bags.
All right. We have time, I believe, for one additional of the long-form questions, because you guys have done so well. So that was question number 6. Who was doing question 6? All right. Susanna, go ahead.
So, what is your plan to attract businesses to Los Angeles that do not add to the pollution burden?
Mr. Garcetti, start there.
We have to focus on the sorts of jobs we want to have here in Los Angeles. Traditional industries like entertainment that are low polluting. I have a proposal right now to make the filming of a new pilot in the city of Los Angeles free. And if it gets picked up, to have a year of city fees waived. Looking at green jobs and green manufacturing and making sure that we do some of the work of the 20,000 jobs that I mentioned in solar installation, in energy efficiency, getting people who are out of work right now to do audits of our homes and our businesses that help bring down our energy and water bills while at the same time providing jobs. And also focusing on those industries right now that are beginning to percolate here in Los Angeles, but it will require a leader who understands them, especially in high technology. I spend probably a day a week now with new companies that are startups in the so-called Silicon Beach area, internet companies that are coming here. Engineers that used to flee Los Angeles are staying here. And I want to be the first high-tech mayor for the city to ensure those low-polluting jobs stay right here and grow our economy just as they have in Northern California, too.
Ms. Gruhl.
You know, someone who's been in the entertainment industry, I understand the importance of that industry to our community. I've served on the California Film Commission and fought for the tax incentives that are necessary to keep that industry here in Los Angeles. We need to keep that signature industry here. But in addition to that, young people are making decisions about where they want to live and where they're going to have their jobs based on their ability to take public transportation and never have to get out of their car. We have some extraordinary universities in Los Angeles, not only my, of course, alma mater, UCLA, but USC and Caltech and Cal State Northridge and Loyola and Occidental and so many more. We need to encourage incubators that will be close to that, to those those universities. But in addition, we need to make sure that we keep those technology companies here. I'd like to create an investment fund, an infrastructure fund, so to speak, for keeping those green jobs here. For some of those businesses I sat with recently in Chatsworth who said to me, we just need a little bit of help to get that first loan so we can have manufacturing for solar panels in Los Angeles and create jobs. That's what we need to do, and that's what I will do as mayor of Los Angeles.
Mr. James.
It's a bit unbelievable to me that they've both talked about the entertainment industry. They've presided over the exit of an entire industry. They've created jobs, all right. They've created jobs in Austin, Texas, in Vancouver, in New York, in Tennessee, in Michigan. They've chased an entire industry out of here. We must make Los Angeles a business-friendly city again. On day one, I present a business improvement package. Details are available at my website at kevinjamesformayor.com. It does not only include business tax reform, it also includes permitting reform too, because we have to bring jobs back here while listening to our neighborhoods, while listening to our communities. We have to make Los Angeles a welcome place for business. It's about us. It's about jobs. It's about our future. And it's about our kids. And in Los Angeles, when I came here, I'm 49 years old. 25 years ago, I came here because Los Angeles was the land of opportunity. But it hasn't been in the last 10 years. But we can make it great again.
Ms. Perry.
I will do what I've done the last 11 years in making downtown an economic engine for the entire region, one that not only resulted in the creation of 90,000 new jobs, but 12,000 more just last week with the final approval of the University Village project at the University of Southern California. Everything that I do is linked to job creation. Some examples: the development of new hotels in downtown Los Angeles to bring jobs where young people are being trained at places like Job Corps, Trade Technical College, and travel, tourism, culinary arts, to link those incentives to build hotels to strategic job creation in disadvantaged communities, to stimulate greater progress, greater investment, a world-class fiber optics grid to attract incubators, light assemblage, green manufacturing, the new renewable energy jobs young people are being trained for, and to provide them with a framework to start up businesses quickly on the front end without as much capital as they've needed in the past.
All right, Rick. Rick has one last question. We're running out of time. We want to get this last question in. We want to limit this last answer to 30 seconds if we could. Rick, go ahead.
What is your plan to help clean up the air in Los Angeles?
Mr. James.
I've gone through it already with the Green Rail Intelligent Development, with the emission control systems, with fuel cell technology, geothermal heating and cooling, more green space. These are all technologies that are available to us. And you know what? They are all job growth positive. Net growth. These are not job killers. They are job raisers. They are job creators. And they're all new technologies that we have right here. Local businesses. Let's use them.
Ms. Perry.
build more housing near transportation so that people can get out of their cars once and for all, create job centers that have already emerged and begin to build on them even more. We have 40,000 people in an area of downtown that weren't here 10, 11 years. So if you build it, they will come. And to make it easy and accessible, build housing at all income levels so that people who are starting out with their lives, grandparents raising their grandchildren, people who are formerly homeless, everybody has a place to live, and they don't need a car. That's a place to start.
Mr. Garcetti.
A world-class transit system that we can use, zero-emission vehicles and alternative fuel vehicles in every single vehicle the city uses, and going beyond that into the private sector. Continuing to clean up our port and getting more ships that can plug into electric power and rail on dock to take our cargo forward. Okay. And getting off of coal, because it's not just about cleaning up our air, it's about cleaning up this planet.
Ms. Gruhl.
We can have a clean port and good jobs, and to ensure that that happens going forward. In addition, it is important to continue to have green space and more parks that we create in Los Angeles. I remember growing up that we had smog days in the city of LA. Thank goodness we've gotten past that. But it is important as we look to the future, which is a transportation system that people can take. It is encouraging transit-oriented development. It is encouraging a jobs housing balance so that when we look to the future, people will say, we didn't spend that many hours in traffic anymore. We got to spend it with our families and our kids. And that's what's going to help us in the future.
All right. Well, we have come to the portion of our debate where the candidates each get to spend a minute telling us why they should be elected mayor. They get 1 minute to persuade us. We will begin on the other end this time with Jan Perry and go this way.
Thank you very much. I want to be your next mayor to refocus, restore, and renew the promise of Los Angeles. My agenda as mayor is direct and to the point. Number one, we have to focus on economic development and strategic job creation. We have to make this city more business friendly so we can grow our economy. We will not be able to tax our way out of this recession. We will have to build our way out of this recession. Now, I've done that for the last decade in downtown Los Angeles by bringing $15 billion in private investment, 90,000 plus new jobs, and $40 million in net new revenue to our general fund. And then we must focus on core city services, public safety, infrastructure, and planning. And then we have to balance our city budget by reducing our expenditures, focusing on bringing in new revenue, and expanding our collections. That includes bringing our city family together to talk about how we will be sustainable over the long haul. I want to make Los Angeles work again.
Mr. James.
Thank you to the organizers of tonight's event, to those of you watching at home. And I know I speak for all of us when I say that our hearts go out to the families and the community in Newtown, Connecticut. Tonight, we've spent the better part of an hour talking about challenges that face us in Los Angeles. We face numerous crises. We have a jobs crisis, a budget crisis, an infrastructure crisis, an education crisis, a transportation crisis, an environmental crisis, a public safety crisis. We have a culture of corruption that has taken public trust and thrown it out the window. We need new leadership. We have a leadership crisis. My opponents are the leaders that caused that crisis. But they have come here and asked you for a promotion. We need real leadership. I am that leader. I bring the independence that we need to make our city great again. And I'm asking you to vote for me, Kevin James, on March 5th. Thank you.
Wendy Gruhl.
We need a mayor for all of Los Angeles, so no part of our city is left behind. That means creating jobs across LA, cultivating entrepreneurship, fostering small business growth. It means more parks. It means cleaning our air. And as a mom with a kid in public school, it means reforming the LAUSD bureaucracy to ensure that dollars go to our kids' classrooms and to our children. To balance the budget, we need to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, and I've identified $160 million. But that's just the beginning. I also know how to manage the city in a crisis. Working for President Clinton after the Northridge earthquake, I helped cut red tape and helped deliver over $1 billion in emergency aid. As a lifelong Angelino, I know we can build a stronger economy, better schools, safe neighborhoods in all parts of our city. And finally, tonight, I hope you will join me in keeping the people of Newton in our thoughts and our prayers as we recommit ourselves to addressing the issue and ending gun violence. Thank you, and I ask for your vote, Wendy Gruhl, for the next mayor of the city of Los Angeles.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you. Of course, our thoughts and prayers continue to be with the families in Newtown. And let us recommit ourselves to not just praying for them, but doing something about it. I'm running for mayor because I believe in LA. And I know that we can be and will be one of the great cities of the world once again. We can change LA. I reject the idea that our best days are behind us. We can change LA because I've done it. I authored our nation's largest green building ordinance, the largest local clean water bond in the nation's history. I led the city in job growth in my district, and in my city council district, we created 31 new neighborhood parks, and we have a bold plan to clean our community's water. I'm proud to have authored the ordinance to create a ratepayer advocate at the DWP so that finally consumers have somebody on their side. But most of all, we have a plan for 20,000 green jobs, good jobs right here in Los Angeles, to clean our water, to reduce our energy and water bills, and to bring solar power to our homes. We can be green and prosperous. So tonight, I ask you for your vote. I'd be proud to be your mayor, and together, we will make LA great once again.
All right. Great job by our candidates. Great job by our timekeepers from the League of Women Voters. And for the first time, I've done a few of these debates. This is the first time I've seen a group of candidates who have kept to time so well that we actually have a little bit of extra time. So we've got about 2 minutes to go. They've given their closing statements. We've done the hard questions. I want to ask each one of you, it'll take about 30 seconds each or so. Okay. Tell me your favorite place in Los Angeles and why. Give me 30 seconds or so, all right? Starting with Gil Garcetti.
For me, it's the Los Angeles River. We got our name from it. It's that backbone of the river, and it is the place where it all started. And we have to renew it. As mayor, it's something I look forward to doing, but I love walking there and seeing fish jumping in there now because of the work we've done.
Say Griffith Park, a park where you could go and be able to walk in the mountains and see the beautiful part of Los Angeles, and to be able to take your children and to walk through there and know that in the middle of a big city you have this great place where I know I've enjoyed going with Thomas and my family to be able to walk and hike in those neighborhoods. And I look forward to having more open space in the city of Los Angeles.
Mr. James.
You know, where I come from in Oklahoma, the Hollywood Hills are mountains. I moved to Los Angeles. When I first came here, I saw the Hollywood Hills, and I thought, I will live there one day. And I've lived there for over 20 years, and that means that I agree with Ms. Gruhl, that it's Griffith Park. It's really close to my home. There's so much that you can do. You can really be outside and experience so much. The views are amazing, and it reminds you every day that we live in the greatest place on earth.
All right, Ms. Perry, real quick.
Okay, very quickly. My favorite place to visit is Slauson and Compton on a Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock when the sun is going down and the birds are coming in and the kids are playing and there are turtles in the water and the children are delighted because they're seeing things that they had never seen before in their own community.
All right, thank you very much. They're playing the music. That is it. Thank you, our candidates. Thank you for watching. The election is March 3rd.
It's been 20 years, and we're still growing.
ABC 7, Southern California firefighters, and you. For 2 decades, making big wishes come true. Help local children feel the spark of love. Bring a new toy to any Southern California fire station. Or donate online at abc7.com. Mail your donation or help stop a bus. ABC 7, Southern California firefighters, and you. Keeping the spark alive for 20 years. Time and Temp brought to you by Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Good times.
There are a lot of words to describe what's coming out of Washington about the future of Medicare and Social Security. But you deserve straight talk about the options on the table and what they mean for you and your family. AARP is cutting through all the political spin. Because for our 37 million members, only one word counts. Get the facts at earntosay.org. Let's keep Medicare and Social Security strong for generations to come.
Try this. It's Oikos Greek yogurt. It's creamy, non-fat, and it turns the next person you see into John Stamos for 5 seconds.
Honey, I think I'm getting burned.
Eat.
Tastes pretty good, huh?
Best yogurt ever.
Dan and Oikos berry flavors. Beat Chobani 2-to-1 in a national taste test. Oikos Greek yogurt. Possibly the best yogurt in the world.
Ring, ring.
Progresso.
I just served my mother-in-law your chicken noodle soup, and she loved it so much. I told her it was homemade.
Everyone tells a little white lie now and then.
Well, but now she wants my recipe. She's right behind me, isn't she?
Progresso. You gotta taste this soup.
With over 50 delicious choices of Green Giant vegetables, it's easy to eat like a giant and feel like a Green Giant.
Ho, ho, ho. Green Giant.